Greetings and God bless. Welcome back. And I have been trying to figure out why things got the way it did from 2020 onward and how it's continuing with little children being funneled into getting sex change operations because it validates some teachers, some parents, and of course it makes money for, it's a new income stream for medicine. And it's but the thing is this is self-destructive. This is like Chinese foot binding or other practices that have been done in the name of social convention. And this is the new social convention, that people are supposed to be the opposite gender because Democrats, because of the left, because of Marxism. And of course, this is just my observation, and it is not the opinion of this platform. So I just want to make that distinction. This is just me, and it's probably just the YouTube Big Brother folks and the bots that are even going to listen to this. So, like YouTube censorship folks, just take that with a grain of salt. I'm just thinking out loud here, and it's basically you and the bots. So, and I'm declaring that this is just my opinion. It's not YouTube's opinion. And the reason why I say this to the folks who are actually possibly watching this is that, like YouTube, when I say something, I'm one person and basically two people are watching my video, maybe, if at all. And if you look at like a lot of my videos, they don't get any views. But even so, like the censorship here is just I'm a number one, not number one, but I'm definitely closely watched. But I wanted to talk about toxoplasmosis along with the trauma, the nasal swabs, and other things that have affected people's self-preservation. It's impaired their self-preservation. And this toxoplasmosis is a pathogen. It's something that people catch from a cat. And I am wondering if people staying home during the lockdowns some people were staying home for months. And so they didn't have good air quality. They're with their cat all the time. They had a greater exposure to their cat. Not only did they get a greater exposure to toxoplasmosis, but the people that they eventually went back to work with or went back to social gatherings with or rioted in the streets in Minneapolis and Portland with, because these parasites are very easy. And once people started having promiscuous sex again. So parasites, some really create self-destructive behavior, such as promiscuity and anger and going towards dangerous situations. And not to mention that people, I think, have been engineered to become much more narcissistic. Like people were conceited. When I was growing up, that was the word, conceited. In the 70s and 80s, there'd be a TV show. So and so is so conceited. You're so conceited. But now it's like this super dangerous pathological narcissism. Like, so yeah, people were conceited. It hurt somebody's feelings. But what I noticed in the early 2000s was that, like, there's bullying that was causing people to a child that was driven to suicide. Schools were not apologetic. Afterwards, the parents of the bullying children weren't, and the bullying children gloated about the victim committing suicide. So this is like a sea change in humanity, where we lost our human decency, and this malignant narcissism has been enabled by cowardly school administration, cowardly parents of the bully. I don't know. I don't know what the whole thing is, but um, there's this very accomplished author. It's like something Weissman, Susan Weissman, and she wrote Queen Bees and Wannabes, and one about boys, wingmen, and something or other. But there was also, there has been, of course, as you probably know, a lot of stuff going on about bullying. And I also think that the over medication, since the 90s, medicating people really became the thing. Um, I guess, it started, I guess, in the 60s with heavy kind of drugs. But then they're like, oh, we got to get kids on drugs. So then, like that speed, the Ritalin and the Prozac and all that brain scrambling um, stuff started being prescribed, and everybody was taking it, and it was like trendy. And I think when you have the child medicated from from the very beginning, so the child is zombified, so it doesn't bother the parent who's been working 60 hours a week, so they don't have the bandwidth to interact with their children. Sorry. And the mother doesn't have the bandwidth because she's been working 50 hours a week or whatever. And she wants to be left alone, or she wants to be able to do whatever it is she wants to do. But, she's a full time worker and everybody's trying to be fabulous. So the child's on meds all their life. So they've never learned how to emotionally cope. They just know take dope. And then the parents, of course, go on meds because they're not living a healthy life, because they're just living to make the buck and to keep up with the Joneses and all the. They don't have any existential self discovery other than when they're taking mushrooms or something like that. But that is a false type of existential exploration if the more you look into it. But anyway, so we have this culture of everybody been doped up since the 90s. So the 90s, and then we have like 30 years of everybody starting from the child being doped up all their lives. So there's no emotional intelligence. And it's really hard to start developing emotional intelligence. Maybe like somebody had a terrible divorce or some sort of crisis. And so they're like, oh, okay, I want to get in touch with my feelings. But if you've not had your feelings, like if you never really knew what you felt, until you start looking in your 50s, like that's just, I don't know if you can really substitute a lifetime of feelings in some work to it. But I'm saying that we have lost out, humanity has lost out by being doped up the past 30 years. And then the whole social media being weaponizing our mentality, and then with the lockdowns weaponizing us being at home, which is so toxic, just to be stationary all the time, being afraid all the time, on your device all the time, the electromagnetics, the blue light, the material, people probably getting addicted to porn more, being at home and solitary. Um, and then the whole political thing, dividing people and dividing people within those divisions and just keeping on dividing people. And then the whole cat thing with toxoplasmosis that's in the feces of cats. For some reason, it seems to be that's the vector of transmission, the cat. And so people were really saturated in their toxoplasmosis cat stuff, and people also adopted a lot of pets during lockdowns and probably around that time afterwards. And so people are getting more exposure to toxoplasmosis. And doctors in America are like, oh, there's no such thing as parasites in the United States. People don't get parasites in the US, even though we know that there's these pathogens, these infections. But because medicine makes money off of undiagnosed parasite infections, undiagnosed Lyme infections and Lyme co-infections, all these little bacterial parasitic infections are big money because that's where that cancer is, diabetes and blindness and all sorts of horrors, even being obese. But that's big money. Big medicine is just about that. And not only do they want to make money off of you, medicine wants to control you. Medicine wants you to depend on them to rule your life. And how I experienced this, I was getting a test for allergies. And so they did like all these 60 pinpricks on my arm with all these toxins in it. And afterwards, the lady was like, "Okay, so what kind of pain medication would you like? I've got this one, I've got that one. And I don't know medications." I'm like, "Oh no, nah, it's not that bad." And she was like, "No, really, you know." And I realized this is the drug dealer, very nice lady, in a well-respected hospital. But what I realized is that she wanted to be my dope dealer, and that medicine wants to be my dope dealer. And the government wants to be my dope dealer. They want you on drugs. They want you helplessly dependent on them. And then they want to do whatever it is they want to do to you. Like that's why so many addicts and homeless people do not turn to the system, because the system is so dark and abusive in these like hard to see ways. I think the word is covert. And so it's like this very manipulative abuse that goes on with vulnerable populations. People are like, "Why don't you go and get help? There's all this money to help you." The only way, everything is human trafficking. And the only way somebody who's gonna make it work, gonna make being trafficked by the system, because that's what these like social services thing, it's a human trafficking thing, because those social services people are working the system. If you have met many of them, they're there because they just need a paycheck, and they they were like, "Okay, I got to get this paycheck because I can't work in a restaurant and I can't do computer coding, so I'll do social work." Like there's this huge, like crazy huge social work situation. Like that's a huge industry right now. But the people who are working are not qualified. They could care less. I mean, just like a lot of people who are working in nursing homes and hospitals. Yes, there's some very sweet blessings of the people working in all of these things, from social work to nursing homes to hospitals. And God bless those people who are sincerely caring. But from what I have heard from family members, multiple family members, there's a lot of abuse and negligence, like institutional negligence and abuse that goes on in a situation where the person is most vulnerable. So, anyways, I want to get back to the plasmosis. It can cause a rage response, self-destructive behaviors like being drawn to dangerous things, and anger, and of course that. And I mean, I haven't like been a big news person, but it definitely seems like people are not taking care of their own selves, much less those around them. And it also seems like people are just itching to attack somebody who's vulnerable. And what I have noticed are female customers throwing hot food in the female server's face, in their eyes, especially trying to get it in their eyes and their nasal passages. So this is very, it's like hot, spicy food or hot liquids. Fortunately, the employees were okay, but um, these terrible women who are itching to abuse somebody, they're not doing it to a trans man. They're not doing it to a biological man. So they're not doing it to a biological woman who identifies as a man. And they're not doing it as a man. And who knows, it might be a matter of time before a woman attacks another biological woman who identifies as a man, because I think the same dynamic exists. It's some sort of weird power trip, and I think that's why people are taking certain identities, is not necessarily a power trip, but to navigate this terrible world. We're in a hellish existence, and of course, in hell, it's going to be 10 times worse. But it's very hard to exist in this world, and so people are just doing backflips to see, well, maybe this will work. And because everybody's been doped up, because everybody has all these parasites and they're out of their mind, because we have all this fluoride in our water and toxins in our air and nutrient depleted soils, so our food can't sustain us, and we can't afford all the vitamins and the procedures that will heal us. Like, people aren't able to find solutions to this dilemma, and I think, like, we're in the end times. I think this is a supernatural, paranormal situation we're in, and that we need Jesus, you know. Um, and yeah, so and I guess I'm pointing this out is, don't think that it's your fault or that you're the only one who's seeing something odd, like, because it does seem like people are being, like, out of control lately. I would say the past few years, and maybe like 22, 23, uh, like, and all these dog attacks every week. I see 1 to 2 dog attacks in the United States, in Europe, in Asia. There might have been something in Africa, South Africa, uh, Australia. So there's something causing dogs to not they're killing people. They're killing their owner. They're killing a little baby. They're killing an elderly person. They're killing a passersby, somebody who's just jogging by. They're killing the neighbor that came to feed them while the owner was away. So there's something unhinged about dogs lately, I think, and I'm wondering what that is. And so I'm wondering, is it 5G? Is it, cell phone, like other kind of technological thing that's irritating, and it's interfering with the dog's normally strong impulse control? Because I see all these bulldogs around, when I'm taking the bus or walking on the sidewalk. And yeah, there's a lot of, like, I notice, and I'm assuming it's because I'm here in Arkansas, and Arkansas has a lot of dog attacks, a lot of, like, dog bites. So there's something about Arkansas, but for the dogs who are calm, they're very calm. They're very focused, and they're very good natured. So what is it about all these many instances, like every week, so how many weeks are in a year that we're seeing 1 to 2 dog attacks where the person died? Like, this is just where the person's died. Like, this is not just the dog bite, you know? That doesn't make world news. But the dog killing people, or like a pair of dogs or a pack of dogs killing people. And it's, the Bible does say that in the end days that animals will start to attack humans. And we see that orcas off of the coast, off of the Strait of Gibraltar, they were disabling boats, like multiple boats this summer. And in Santa Cruz, otters were attacking surfers and biting chunks out of surfers' surfboards. And elephants have attacked people. Bears have attacked, more attacks this year of bears in Japan killing people than, like, previous years or previous chunks of time. So I don't know, and it could be chemtrails. Maybe some, like, toxic thing is put in the air, and it's just causing this kind of reaction. Um, so I just wanted to ask what you guys think. Have you guys noticed anything? Like after the injections, there was also like, I mean, strange stuff happening, people dying suddenly. Um, and there was like, just like this road rage. Like I just saw these like crazy road rage behaviors. Like there was this one lady in Denver who was like driving a car with flat wheels in the pedestrian mall between these gates where there was basically no room, and like the police never got to her. She was like doing this for like hours, and the police like it was just it was laughable how negligent the police were, much less how wacky this lady was. So people are hopeful, and there's a little bit of me that has hope that maybe something will get better. But if we look at maybe the past 25 years, or if we look at the past 5 years, or if we look at the past 5 months, um, I think we're progressing downhill faster than we are fixing ourselves. And, they're doing a lot of good research. And I'd say, like, I watch a lot of um, postings, like headlines on Substack, and I read um, some material there as well. And there's just so much to keep track of, and there's so much incredible research being done. I just can't read everything, but there's definitely a lot of quality thought and research and expression, like articulating what's what that's going on. And people are really doing their best. But it just seems like 99% of the world just wants to go to sleep, just wants to allow whatever's happening to happen. And it's unfortunate. Um, but I can understand. I can understand this hypnosis, because trying to get through this life, going to work, doing the commute, doing the terrible job, the annoying job, the job of torture with crummy managers, and, just boring to death, or working too hard and not getting compensated. And then the commute back home, and trying to, make food in a crummy house with loud neighbors, and the dog constantly barking, and the mold everywhere, and not being able to afford your groceries, and not being able to get to sleep because you have insomnia because the doctor can't figure it out, and you can't get any answers from the doctor, and then you have to go back to work, and you just worry, did I make enough money this month for rent? It's tough. It's and maybe it's like this. I mean, we're supposed to lean on God, not our understanding. And I think that's why, like, that's what I noticed in my life, is like God will put challenges, and it's an opportunity for me to turn to God. And I don't always do it right. I don't always turn to God. Um, and I wonder if, like, we're learning how to be patient and how to endure difficulty. Maybe we're learning compassion. Like, because, I understand why not to care about what's going on in the world. Because I understand I was just trying to survive and have enough little bit of life to, have life, have like be able to enjoy, an hour of my life, my otherwise difficult life and unpleasant, life, stressful life. So, what do you guys think about this toxoplasmosis theory, and that people were exposed to their cats more during lockdowns, and all the stuff like with the nasal swabs breaking that grip form plate? So then that allowed any pathogens to get, past the blood-brain barrier, and then taking injections, and that did this whole other whatever thing, and all the traumatization, like this engineered trauma, like with the riots and the lockdowns and the headlines and the media state jerking us around and saying, yes, you need this. No, you don't. Yes, you don't. You need one. You need two. You don't need any. You need four. You need it while you sleep. Um, you need it while you're kissing. And then, with the whole social media thing, I mean, it's just this perfect storm of how to break a human being. I talk about the biggest MK Ultra torture situation. I don't know if it's just America. I don't know other countries' situation. I suspect it's probably a Western culture thing, although definitely horrible things are happening in the East, even amongst, like in India. Like I just saw, like some guy raped this female doctor, and hospitals blowing it off. Nobody, like the people should care, but they don't. And this is like 2024, like a female doctor's raped and murdered, and like people are blowing it off. This is like Indians doing this to Indians. Um, so yeah, we've just got a lot of problems, and I'm more aware of the West, but maybe something similar is happening in the East. I'm pretty sure, probably because the deep state doesn't want there to be any sanctuary that's out of their clutches. So the globalists want the demise of every civilization, and they're charting the West because it's such a beacon, because it's Christian. It's a Christian nation. So the West is like, well, America is a Christian nation, but the West is also Christian, and so the deep state, which is satanic, is like trying to uh, take apart the West in the worst way possible. And yet, I do think that the deep state is also working on the East too. Um, so, so I think it's really good. And make sure you deworm your cat, and you know how to handle, toxoplasmosis exposure, and um, like, and if you have chronic illness, you got to figure out, like, you can't have your cat sleep on your head and in your bed. It's not healthy for you. Um, and air out your house and have a good air filter, because you just, like, pathogens, parasites are really, um, they're they can have a really intense effect on you, and you're not going to get help from doctors because doctors aren't taught about it. And you know they don't want to know about it because they don't want the solution, and they show it to us all these years because people have been talking about parasites and overgrowths, like yeast overgrowth. I mean, this has been, like, doctors themselves know people who are gluten intolerant, or who have had candida, or who have had a parasite infection. So, like, personally, like, I know people of the doctor's class. They're all like eating gluten free or whole foods or organic food. But if you go to them and say that, like, if you're not some rich person, fancy person, or whatever, and you say, whenever I eat bread, I have a problem, they're not going to tell you you shouldn't eat gluten. Or, when like, my kitty litter box is right next to my bed, and I started having a problem. Like doctors will never, they just won't help you. They'll be like, you're crazy, let's put you on psych meds, you know or you've got cancer, let's cut you up and radiate you. Really, like, that's, I don't know why, you know And the most criminal part is that the people who call themselves doctors are willing to do this to you like that. Like, I read this line that the folks who know this, like, if you think I'm exaggerating, what happened in 2020 in nursing homes, vulnerable patients in hospitals were given the treatment, and where there was an incentive of up to $500,000, $500,000, up to $500,000 for a dead CV diagnosis. Okay, death by CV. And number one, most important, there was no other option. There was no other cause of death allowed in statistics, allowed in the app that doctors used to fill out. They were only allowed to say every death was CV, because hospitals are like, we're not leaving money on the table. Their job is to make money. Their job isn't to be honest. Their job isn't to be your friend. Their job isn't even to heal you. Their job is to make money. So all these docs, they were told, you got to make. We want all the $500,000 we can get. We want all the dead patients we could get. So they locked families out of the hospital. They won't let the families in. Like, doctors, nurses, security, the local police. So hospitals, they made their money. And all of those people are running around free. Serial murderers. Serial murderers in every city, every place with hospital that was flourishing, that was around in 2020. They said it was always swamped. I lived across from a hospital during the lockdowns. It was not busy at all. I didn't go inside, but just ordinary, couple people coming out when I was walking by. It's not some massive thing. So we got murderers everywhere. Human traffickers, everywhere. Like, everything is about that, in my opinion, human trafficking. And, like, what did they do with the bodies? So, harvesting, human organ harvesting, is lucrative. So they got the $500,000 for terminating, a patient for that CV money. And I bet that, because there's a Medicare code for execution, so I bet somebody could do an audit and see if the hospitals actually charged Medicare to execute the people in the nursing home in the hospital. So the hospital made more money. And then there should be an audit done. Did the hospital harvest organs from the people that they killed? Now, for the best results of organ harvesting, you don't give anesthesia, and you harvest while the patient's still alive. So, were these patients, were their eyes cut out of their skulls, were their hearts cut out of their body, their liver, their whatever, all the little important parts, $1 million, probably a couple $1 million. So were these patients not only used for that $500,000 CV money, but were they dissected while alive for organ harvesting? Because that's what's happening in Ukraine, and I'm sure it's probably, I believe that's what wars are. It's probably happening with Gaza. People are probably being organ harvested. Apparently, Israel is a big organ harvest hub. but Ukraine is as well, and of course, the United States. Like somebody was saying how, can't remember if it was in China or if it was somewhere else, but like somebody learned they needed a kidney or whatever, and in a half hour they had a kidney. Now, I have a family member who needed a kidney transplant, and it took her years to get that, like 10 years ago or whatever, 15 years ago. So now, like organ harvesting it's like the thing. And there's no way you could have so many organs available if you weren't just killing people, like just using them like a factory animal. And the thing is, these are human beings with lives, but this is a satanic thing that they've been doing forever. And there's just, there's different degrees of how brutal and disgusting it is. And of course, it's all disgusting and brutal and horrible. And trying to qualify it is disgusting. Like trying to qualify it as any better or whatever is just manipulative. So we're in, and people, they're like, yeah, these are crazy times. But they don't realize it's supernatural. And that's why we need Jesus. We need to be like, God, the creator, you've got this, you've got this under control. And for some reason you have me here. So just help me do whatever it is you want me to do, or pray whatever it is that you think, pray that the wicked are removed and replaced with good people. That's why we need Jesus. And the way we have a relationship with that, he shed his blood, he died, was resurrected. Life is in the blood, so that's why that was important. The wages of sin is death, so that's why blood has to be shed. And then when we believe on the death, burial, and resurrection, we realize that God was able to die and bring himself back to life. So he paid for our sins instead of us having to pay for our sins, which is to die. And to me, to die is to be in the absence of God. So instead, Jesus paid for our sins. And then when we believe he's God, we have accepted what he's done. We're in a consensual, we have been informed, and we have informed consent in our relationship with God, and then we enter the kingdom of God. Once we understand the situation we're in the supernatural catastrophe, and Jesus saved us. So we say, oh, thank you, Jesus, you saved us, you saved me. I believe you died, was buried, and were resurrected. And I believe you shed your blood to pay for my sins. And then, your eternity is safe with Jesus. And then, being that we are still here, we're here to share, like I'm sharing with you. The good news is that this is life is but a vapor. So even though, it seems like life is a long time, and when we look at eternity, all of time that we're going to be around, this 50 years or 20 years or 70 years or 100 years is really going to be it's going to really feel like a small amount of time compared to what our eternity is when we are in like kings in heaven, judging other men and angels, and doing, I don't know what other things we're going to be doing for all eternity. Maybe understanding why whatever happened, and thinking, about how to be a better being or something like that. So anyways, thank you for watching. And if you like this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to learn more, check out my my previous videos. And if you want to hear my next one, subscribe. Thanks for watching. God bless.